Lauren Schaller here on becoming an online teacher, and I start off with a picture of BMO from Adventure Time, the computer-like person who is built to be more. Thought that was appropriate to start off with. Just to reintroduce myself, I am almost finished with getting my Master's of Education from Millersville with the STEM concentration. I teach at Dauphin County Technical School, a career and technology education high school in Harrisburg. I've been there for 3 years as of this past November, so I'm in my fourth year. I teach science to freshmen and environmental science to mostly juniors, but a few seniors. Before that, I worked at a couple science centers, one of which was the Lancaster Science Factory. I'm all about hands-on activities, so online learning really threw me for a loop. I do like to go outdoors. I just was outdoors. It's not a bad day for the middle of winter. And I do like to read. I love tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons. And I watch lots of TV. So let's get down to it. How did my prior experience shape me? So my online learning experience at Millersville has been very beneficial. I've learned a lot and what I expect as a student, and just getting that exposure was extremely helpful. I completely agree that it's very important for being an online teacher. I saw the need for I needed a lot of clarity on what I need to do. It was weird having less paper, so getting used to that. Doing group work has been interesting. I still getting used to that. Making videos of myself, at least by the time I was an online teacher, I was much more comfortable with that. Having a synchronous class really threw me for a loop, online teaching, but at least being a learner, I had some kind of idea of what to expect. Understanding how to budget your time is something I'm sympathetic to with students. And having a white background. You might notice I'm using a black background here for my little presentation, and thinking about how much time you're staring at a white screen, because it can kind of be rough. So I became online when COVID happened. There's tons of stuff out there, but it's kind of overwhelming. So I appreciate all the people who told me to keep it simple. You don't need to do many. In fact, it's better to just kind of have a few key things that you use in an online classroom for the kids. I started having headaches, and I think it was because of all the time as an online teacher that I spent staring at the screen. So I've learned to have a little more, try to build in time away from a screen and away from work. Keeping things short has been important, because me being so long-winded and detail-oriented, it doesn't work online. Kids need short and sweet explanations. Having the students make videos, sometimes they don't like to make them, which is very shocking. So I don't know what to do about that, trying to figure that one out. I've been communicating a lot more with parents, so it's much easier now for me to just reach out like it's nothing to parents and just constantly reach out to them. I've learned to watch my tone a little bit more, especially in this high-stress environment we're in right now. And I've learned a lot about getting feedback from students, how to pace the class, and monitoring for cheating, because cheating can be a little easier right now. And I've learned about using Chrome for as much as possible. So I think all these things have been helpful to me. Now let's do a self-audit with Jake from Adventure Time looking on. Online communication skills, definitely an intermediate for me. I am long-winded, which is bad, but I'm getting better about it. I'm getting better about sending feedback, and I try to always send something encouraging to my students, because it can be hard to hear that feedback from the teacher. Content knowledge, definitely a strong intermediate. I'm more than a novice. I can definitely talk to you a lot about specific things with the topics I teach. However, I definitely I feel the need to be much more advanced with more specific case study like knowledge. Now, technology is where I need to grow the most. It's where I have the most room for improvement. I would say I'm not exactly a beginner, but I just don't feel like I'm really intermediate. It depends on what software you're talking about, what applications. Like Edpuzzle I use a lot, and so some teachers come to me for advice on how to use Edpuzzle sometimes, and but other things I'm not like, I don't really care for Nearpod, but I could stand to learn a lot more from that. And here is my comparison based on the reading and some of my own ideas of the teacher qualities for online versus face to face, and which one do I think really wins. In the end, I feel that for dedication and motivation, dedication, motivation, and then flexibility, I personally feel it's the same. I can see the points that were made in the readings about why an online teacher needs these more. You're kind of on your own island as an online teacher. You earn less. You don't have your teacher friends around you. You're not connecting with people because you're not really there with people. And you're kind of expected to be available all the time, which definitely happened to me and a lot of other teachers, and you have to work really hard to establish boundaries, I think. So learning to be inflexible, I think, is actually important. And now, the last three, organization, passion, and patience. Of course, I feel like you need all these things in face-to-face. I would argue that, it's pretty important, but I really see why you would need these qualities much, much more for an online teacher. The organizations and students are kind of teaching themselves, they're guiding themselves, so you need to be so much more patient, and I've learned this for sure the hard way. I have to hold myself back and remind myself of this fact. They need to be taught to operate on their own, and a lot of them are having a lot of trouble with that. They you need to be more passionate, you need to work harder to make the connections with them, because it's so much more difficult when they're not there in front of you. And I thought that I think I should add, in the video, well, the readings in the video kind of, not the video, but the readings kind of said, oh, okay, maybe you don't need as much patience in person. Still not sure about that one, but I can very much see the point that was made in the video, that there are less discipline issues, online versus face-to-face, which, makes is a good argument to make for online learning, actually, because I have noticed that as well personally. I have less discipline issues for sure. But if you have more discipline issues, I think that would take more patience, to be honest. So, challenges of online teaching. I do not think that time overall is a huge challenge for me personally, but I do feel that time to learn the new technology is an extra thing that we weren't expecting as teachers. I think it's tough to be an online teacher when you don't have the time built into your schedule to learn this new technology. So I've relied, I think, more so on what I've used in the past. I have learned a few new things, but I tend to stick to what I knew ahead of time, prior to this. And if you're constantly an online teacher, I could see that you would always need time to learn technology, because technology, there's always something new. It's always changing. So you're always going to have to devote time. I think another part of this too is differentiated instruction, which I'm still figuring out. I've been noticing, I just noticed because of this class, and we're only like a week in, I noticed that Quizzes has an adaptive learning feature that I might be able to get into, and because of this classes, I only noticed that. The course content's not really an issue for me. I already create a lot of my own stuff, pretty much everything. But student issues are definitely a big challenge. Like they said in the video, you don't know what's going on the other end, especially because a lot of the kids, we allow kids to not show their face. I don't make my kids show their face. So you really don't completely know. Now, I do ask for constant interaction, participation from my students, but I'm not seeing them, so you never know what's going on. You don't know what they're dealing with because you're not there. They're not in front of you. Some kids are in really, really tough situations, and it's much harder to understand that when you just can't see the kid. So I would agree that I think three challenges were presented in the reading, and I would definitely agree with the time and the student issues. And thank you for listening.